Hey everyone, welcome to Filmocracy Talks, a bi-weekly open forum where we discuss topics filmmakers care about. I'm Paul Junn, CEO of Filmocracy, and I'm joined by Jose Escorcia, our very talented filmmaker and producer for the show. Today we are joined by LA-based filmmaker Devan Ford. Devan is a director and cinematographer at heart, but he loves anything that has to do with filmmaking. He's from San Jose originally, unfortunately, but is based under the sunny skies of Burbank now. Everything all started on a family road trip a few years ago. Nothing more than his beautiful family, a wonderful trip, and a cheap little camera. The rest of the story helped spark one of the greatest decisions of his life. He just wants to make movies. So I'll kick it off by asking you to tell us a little bit about your filmmaker journey.
My journey is been like everyone else's. It's just been wild. I've honestly been the type of person to stress about their journey since junior high school. High school, obviously, everyone tried to figure out what they want to do with their life. So I kind of moved around a lot. It started with baseball, elementary school to junior high, early part of high school, all the way to playing basketball, wanting to, maybe go overseas and play or stuff like that. To 2013 when my grandmother passed away, which led to me studying oncology and wanting to be a doctor in that kind of field. And then, it's just kind of crazy where everything went after that. Because then I kind of took a step back and tried to figure out what I really wanted to do with my life. And I basically went on a road trip with my family. We went to Colorado to visit our cousins out there. They live in Colorado. So we just took an RV. We spent 2 weeks, went up through Four Corners, Grand Canyon, all the way up to Colorado, then all the way back to Vegas and back. And me and my older brother, he's a photography guy. I'm the video guy, I guess. So both of our careers kind of launched from there. And I'm also the type of person to where I do things impulsively sometimes. So when I love something, I just kind of jump into it feet first, no matter what the heck happens. In 4 years today, or 4 years later, I'm living in Burbank, living my dream, just trying to make it like everyone else in this world.
Yeah, man, that's really awesome. And, just for the audience to know, so me and Devan go back. We went to the same film school together, and we were in the same class day one. You're really close to my heart, man. I love you a lot, like a brother. What was really awesome about getting to know you as a filmmaker, and it's something that I guess can be a little unconventional for some filmmakers, was how green you were when you started film school. Essentially, you had some practice here and there, because for many of you who don't know, Devan did parkour, so he used to do some stuff with his friends, back in the day. And so coming into film school, you were someone that basically was learning as you were going. You didn't really have knowledge. You said you even told me, like, bro, I don't know any movies you guys are talking about, none of this, none of that. But what I appreciated about you so much, and I honestly, it helped me a lot too, so was your drive, man. Your drive and your sense of wanting to learn, and this is something that I admire a lot from you. It's when you start in school, I remember people would constantly mention a movie and you'd be like, I don't know what the hell that is. I don't know. And then you made it a mission to surpass that level of those people that were saying that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I remember you told me, I have to watch at least, what was it, 2 movies a day?
Yeah, it started off as 1 movie a day, and then it turned into 2 movies a day when I had extra time.
Yeah. I'm telling you guys right now, and Paul, so if you go to this guy's house, he has a bookshelf that's the size of a library bookshelf, and it's top to bottom cramped of DVDs. And he's like, I literally just watch movies. And I think by the second semester, this guy was already past people's knowledge for films. And he was like, oh, this movie. And it's this is someone that started basically from the ground floor and went up in terms of just knowledge. And so right there, he started to build his understanding about the filmmaking world. And so every time I would hear you doing that kind of stuff where you're like, nah, man, like movies is my life right now. That's all I got to learn. That's all I got to do. That's all I got to breathe. Even for me, I was like, oh, I got to step it up too, man. Like if this guy's doing it, I got to do it too. So it was really cool. Like, you pushed me to do it as a filmmaker. And I truly believe that as a filmmaker, you have to at least watch one movie a day. It's the only way you learn. Like there's that saying, like you got to learn from the masters, and that's something that you did, man. There's some stuff that you did that I'm like, how the hell did he do that? Like you watched what like the old school Griffith movies and
Birth of a Nation.
Of a Nation. Oh my god, that was a 3-hour slog of a movie. That is an important film in history. It's really important. You saw it 3 times. Why the hell would you do that?
I honestly just feel like since that is where we came from, like I have to know where movies and films came from in general in order to understand where they are now.
Exactly. Just you saying that alone, I understand. Yeah. I don't know why you do it. I'd never watch Birth of a Nation 3 times. But
don't do that, please. Don't do it.
Because you were like, I need to learn this. I need to learn this history, and like all these other classic movies, like what was it, Trip to the Moon, or what's it called? I'm blanking on it.
Oh yeah, Trip to the Moon.
All those type of movies. I know every time I pass by the library, like I would see you coming out of it. The people at the library are like, "Oh, that's Devan. He's the person that comes every day." Like they weren't surprised when you come in. So seeing you evolve as this filmmaker and kind of still, I know you're still doing it, but slowly finding your voice, very admirable, man. And I think it's very brave of you to like take on such a task, and being so green and just being like, oh, I'm gonna go into film school and hope for the best, and knowing that you made it out. You've learned so much. It's awesome to know, man. And another thing, I'm gonna keep praising you a little bit. You are one of the most laser focused, energized crew members, whatever position you take, you freaking nail it, man. Like, I'll be guilty of it. If we're on set, and we've been on tons of sets together, if it's slow, it's taking 2 hour and a half to get one shot, I'm gonna fall asleep, or I'm gonna try to fight off sleep, because I'm like, oh my god, this is just a slog. We've had those bad experiences on set where a lot of people don't know what they're doing. But no matter what, I would just see you perched up straight, just being like, what do we gotta do? What do we gotta do? And I would be like, how are you still awake, man? Like, what are you doing? So there's just a lot about you that you personally helped me learn about myself, help tell myself to improve on. You've done really awesome, man, and you should be very proud of yourself.
No, thank you for that.
For sure.
Yeah,
and right now, right now, I know you've got some projects behind your belt, but you want to talk about a little bit of how your experience, not me just explaining it, but your experience in film school was?
Yeah, like you said, film school is a lot of ups and downs, obviously, like anything else when trying to learn a new craft. I would say the biggest thing was probably exhausting. Just because, like all of us, if you want to be the best, you have to work harder than the person that you think is the best. So I feel like I definitely pushed myself to the brink of the edge a lot of times, which also led to taking weekends off and just not fully there. So I feel like the biggest thing I learned in film school was it's okay to take breaks, and not breaks in the sense of like literally just go to the beach and not do anything, which is good, by the way, because everyone loves the beach, sipping on a martini, all that stuff is great. But I mean, like, breaks in the sense of just sit back and try to watch a movie, but without studying that movie.
Enjoying it, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's one thing
that's so hard.
A lot of people that I know say that to me, where they're like just like a regular consumer, like I don't know, like other friends, and I'm sure you've had similar situations where you're watching a movie with them, and they'll be like, "Hey, our lens of watching the movie is completely different than yours. You're a filmmaker, you're this artist, so you look at it like as if we're reading the Matrix little board that you see in the movies. It's like, no, man, we're enjoying the movie too.
Exactly.
From a different angle. But it's true. You have to find that fine line between like enjoying the movie and being like, oh, I saw a boom pole, or I saw a light. Kind of weird. Because then
it's the same. It's the same thing with like other artistic endeavors too. Like when I go, I don't know anything about how you should do brush strokes or what it takes to actually build this sculpture, and I'm just I like looking at it. But you can still like enjoy it from different perspectives.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny that you just mentioned that because just today I saw my one movie for today. It's not going to be the only one though, but I'm just saying.
There you go.
That check mark. First movie done for today. I saw Capone today.
Oh,
and
okay.
I had a friend of mine, her name's Romelia. Hopefully she'll be in the show later on. You know her, Devan. She told me like a couple weeks ago, she's like, that movie was so garbage. It's shit. It's directed by the guy who did Fan Four Stick, which was the really bad Fantastic Four movie, Josh Trank. Yep. He also did Chronicle, which was amazing. But anyways, and I was always curious about it. And it's Tom Hardy. You can never go bad with Tom Hardy. He's like A caliber level.
Yeah.
I watched the movie and I already had in my mind that it was going to be a bad movie, but I was like, how bad can it be? And it is such a bizarre gangster flick. It almost teeters on the horror genre. It's very hyper violent, but the performance you get from Tom Hardy is like damn near comical that you can't take anything seriously in the movie. Mm-hmm. And by the time I finished it and I posted on my social media, I was like, just saw Capone. That movie's fucking weird, dude. And people are going like, oh, I told you it was shit. I told you it was bad. I told you this. I told you that. And I was like, no. I didn't say it was bad. I just said it was weird. And people are confused about that. And I'm like, no, you got to just look at it from a different lens. You know what I mean? Like, appreciate it for what it is. Just because it's not your typical gangster Scarface, The Godfather type of flick doesn't mean that it's bad. Like, it just took its own take on what the gangster movie genre is. Yeah. And I enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't look at it or didn't expect anything out of it. I think that's what helped me. I gave it a good mix of being critical, but also just looking at it as a regular consumer. And I found enjoyment out of it. Weird as hell, but it was really enjoyable. Mm-hmm. So I agree with what Paul's saying. It's just like, don't just make it black and white and go good or bad. Just watch it for yourself and see what you get out of it.
So I have a question for you, Devan. Like, that is so interesting that you decided you wanted to be a filmmaker and then you just went hard. Like, usually, like, people, they've been watching movies ever since they were young, and they've had this idea that they're going to be involved in that industry somehow as they grow up, and they just like grow into it. So, like, what was the trigger? What happened?
See, it's actually funny you say that, because back when I used to watch movies, or back when I was younger, I used to think that I was being lazy when I would sit down and watch a movie, because I used to work out 6-7 days a week, because that's back when I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, just moved around. So literally, I felt like if I wasn't eating, exercising, going to the gym, running, swimming, like doing anything like that, then I felt like I was being completely lazy. And then once I found out that I couldn't join the Navy SEALs because of my Tourette syndrome, I was just stuck. Like, I had no idea what the heck I wanted to do. And once again, it brings me back to that trip, to where, granted, the movie was not the best. It was an hour-long documentary of our trip, and thankfully to my family, they watched the whole thing and smiled and clapped at the end, and I was like, maybe there's something going on here,
Yeah,
but
I love that feeling, man.
Yeah, exactly. But deeper within all that, I just had fun just telling a story. And that's one thing that I never really done before, was telling someone else's story. Like, I've been so focused on myself. And when I started looking outside and not being as narrow-minded as I was before, I realized that there's a whole world outside, and there's so much to say about everything. And I use the knowledge from each of the background, or each of the field that I was in to basically put into my movies and let other people know that, hey, it's okay to not know who you are at first. But eventually you'll find it if you work hard enough. So when I found filmmaking, I was like, hey, I could basically show who I am through this filmmaking, and I could hopefully touch someone else's heart and they could find what they want to do with it. So that's just how I kind of go about things.
I think a good jumping point of what you just said, and this is something that you brought up yourself that maybe you want to talk about a little bit. You talked about identity.
Yeah.
Now, how have you been able to find your identity? And maybe you're still finding it as a filmmaker, but how important is it, and how hard is it to find your identity as a filmmaker? That style, that voice that you want people to hear from you.
I'm not really going to sugarcoat it and say that it's completely easy to find your identity, just because I would say it's actually pretty hard. Because when you start in the whole filmmaking world, you have like 126 years worth of filmmaking, because I think 1894 of filmmaking before you that came. So when you first jump in, you're like, oh wow, there's so many different filmmakers. Like you have Spielberg, you have Scorsese, you have Nolan, who's big now, you have Michael Curtiz, Casablanca, like huge names, and you're like, oh, well, they did it this way, so let me try to do it this way, and maybe I could be a great filmmaker too.
Exactly.
So,
man, hell yeah.
So when you start off, you literally try to copy that person, but then you realize, my films don't turn out as good as theirs. And that's because you have your own voice and your own things that you want to tell and the things that you believe in, which is not what they believe in, but what you believe in. So I feel like once you start to listen to that inner voice inside of your head, which is very hard to do in LA, by the way, then I feel like you could be a great filmmaker too. And I feel like Spielberg actually talked to the USC graduating class a few years ago, and he said that dreams come from the back of your head, meaning that they always whisper to you. Like dreams aren't going to come in front of your face and they're going to yell at you and be like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be a drama filmmaker. It's going to whisper in the back of your head, and granted, you have to try to direct different things, and you have to try different like grip gaffer, or try to direct different genres. So you do have to try a bunch of different things, but once it sparks and once you actually find what you love doing, then that's when it'll just take off, and that's when you can direct all your time, and that's where you see these huge directors who like direct similar things, you know. And that's where you could,
It's awesome putting it, man. And you personally, like, what have you seen that you're very interested in telling? I might know a little bit, but like, I know that you have like a crazy extensive knowledge on the history of filmmaking, and you've, I know like Spielberg is like somebody that blows your mind, and like that's your main guy. But, just from like learning so much and delving yourself into the world of filmmaking and these masterful directors, what have you sort of found in yourself as a filmmaker? Like what genre do you like? What type of stories do you like to tell?
Well, the first thing is obviously I love Spielberg because that's like the easy answer. Like Spielberg has changed so many. Like he just wowed the world when Spielberg came out. But there's also a lot of other directors, like obviously John Ford and David Lean, Kurosawa, who Spielberg loved to look up to. You know, so I feel like the thing
Star Wars without Kurosawa.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like it's crazy how all of the people who our generation looks up to, like there's a whole generation before them and a whole generation before them, you know. So definitely research is a huge thing. But the stories that I like to tell is I grew up a Christian. From preschool to 12th grade, I was in a private school. So I bless my parents for that. That was great. So my stories kind of relate around the Bible in a similar sense, just because I feel like all the biblical stories today, they're kind of corny in a sense, you know, to where obviously we believe we believe in God, and we know that if you believe in him, then everything will happen, you know? But I feel like to today's generation where everyone's just going crazy, I feel like you have to do it in a more creative way.
Yeah.
So my goal is to basically modernize these Christian stories or these biblical stories and make it to where if you're a Christian, you know that this is the story of David and Goliath. This is the story of Joseph and his brothers getting sold to slavery. But when you actually look at them or look at it from no previous knowledge of the fact, then you just say, hey, that's just
really
a normal
movie.
Yeah. You know, it's just a normal film. Like, look at The Matrix. You know, like, there's a lot of speculation about The Matrix and about how Neo, you know, if you rearrange the letters, it's the one, and like the whole, you know, Christian aspect of that, you know. But when you watch The Matrix, you're like, huh, that's a really good movie.
You know what movie?
Idea.
You know what movie did that really well? Now you bring that up. Actually, The Matrix. I've heard about that a little bit, but that's really cool. Another movie that basically has that style that you talked about, and I'm not sure if you're a fan of, but you know, he's hit or miss, but when he hits, it's good. Is M. Night Shyamalan, and when he did Signs.
Oh, Signs. Okay. Yeah.
When you first watch Signs, it's like, oh, it's an alien invasion movie.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever, run your mill. But then when you really break down Signs, it's exactly what you just said. You know, it's like, okay, it's an alien movie. The aliens can be defeated by water. Mel Gibson is a priest in the movie.
Yep.
What if the aliens were demons, and the reason that the water hurt the aliens is because it was holy water?
Yep. And
that's why it's burning them. So when you put those aspects of like, oh, it has a little bit of this into the movie, you see the whole movie in a different way, man, and it changes it. But it's not sticking its agenda in your face like some of these movies, like, I don't know, like God's Not Dead, where it's telling you what the message that it wants to tell you. It's all like, I enjoyed it for what it is. And me myself, when I found out the demon theory from Signs, I was like, yo, it made me want to watch the movie again.
I know, it's crazy, right? Yeah.
So even that, The Matrix, man, like I'll probably, after this, I'm gonna probably look it up a little bit and be like, I want to watch The Matrix now. And see what.
Come on over, we have it on the shelf.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I think that's a really cool way to do it, man. It's not being biased towards what your beliefs or whatever it is. It's just like, this is the message I want to come across, but I also want to, you know, I want a mass audience to come and enjoy it for what it is, whether or not we have the same, you know, thought process on what's going on in the film, still enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's really cool.
Obviously, there's a lot of influence on your perspectives on film based on these historic directors and how they paved the way. And this is a podcast / webinar thing. We're talking about a lot of things that filmmakers care about. But at the same time, we have a lot of people who aren't necessarily filmmakers that recognize the names, but they don't really know why. Like, so maybe it would be cool if you could talk a little bit about why Spielberg was so... Like, what is it that a regular person can try to understand a bit more technical or, you know, artistic things that he did?
Of course. I would say when looking at filmmaking, everything comes back to story. So when, let's see, how do I put it? So I want to talk about Spielberg because like everything's great. The cinematography.
It doesn't have to be Spielberg. It could be a different, different director.
That's true. That's true. Okay. Let's look at Quentin Tarantino, because I would say people either love him or they hate him. So he's probably one of the most controversial in the sense of filmmaking, you know, directing. Quentin Tarantino, he's one of the type of people who will speak his mind. He will tell you bluntly exactly how it is. Through his filmmaking, for one, he has one of the best dialogue in the film world. His dialogue is touched by no one else. Like, just the way he speaks, it's very realistic. So when you hear his characters talk, you really feel like they're right in front of you speaking. You know, like you feel like you're on a journey with them. And I feel like that's a lot of what makes good movies from bad movies. Is good movies, you really feel like you're on a journey with them. and you really see that they're real people, you know. So it does stem from story, just because when you look at a character, and you kind of try to compare them to someone in real life, someone in real life isn't 100% good or 100% bad. They're either 50% good, 50% bad, 70-30, you know, 60-40. Like, there's always something going on, and that's what creates complex characters. And that's why Tarantino's movies are so big. Like, look at Django. Like, his whole life's mission is basically to find his wife, while also trying to get along in this world where Black people are being oppressed and they're getting put down, which is also going on today. So it also sparks something in us, no matter what time of year or what time of day you're watching it, you know. So I just feel like the great directors, they just know how to tug on the hearts of the audience, and they know how to place certain elements within their scripts, or even through their production design, like what's going on in the background, like their extras, or with their camera, like is it going to be a wide shot to where you see literally everything, like in Stagecoach, where they have this huge action battle, or jump. Sorry, you're not talking about history. Sorry, keep it modern. But to where you just, like The Revenant, it's like super wide, and you literally get to see this whole world, and you're just very embracive in it. Or it's like very close, like In the Mood for Love, or Long Car Wide, where everything's like super close and very intimate, and you get to see the very subtleties of people's facial expressions, and you're very in their face, you know. So these directors know how to use their camera, they know how to use their production design, the color, like Wes Anderson. You just see everything, and they just know how to create this world through each of the elements of filmmaking and put it on screen. And we resonate with that, because if we didn't, then we wouldn't be in this industry, or we wouldn't have a knack for looking at any of the artists' works in the world. You know, like the same reason we watch a movie, the same reason why we go to LACMA and we look at people's paintings, or we go to the opera and we listen to people sing. Like, people put their hearts into it, and people love to see what people have to bring to the table.
Beautifully said, man.
How important do you think it is to have like a very strong style, that like if you made a movie, someone would be able to go immediately like, oh, that's a Devan Ford picture? Like, is that important to you, or is it more important to just be like this sort of like...
Funny that you say that, Paul, before he answers, because he mentions Tarantino, and Tarantino has lived his whole filmography, his whole lifestyle off of stealing other people's styles.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. So, sorry, go on. Yeah.
No, of course. I mean, but even though Tarantino does steal other people's styles, you can still look at it and be like, oh, that's a Tarantino movie.
Exactly. That's crazy.
Which is really weird. So, like, it's actually a really good question. I'm probably going to think about that later and text Jose later and be like, yo, I finally have an answer to that question. No, but I do feel like it is important to know who came before you, but I want to say it's as important to have your exact style, because being too different could also turn people off.
Yes.
But then again, being too just like someone else, you won't get noticed, because they'll be like, oh, well, that's just like this person, so why do we need you if we have this person? Yeah. You know, so I feel like finding that perfect equilibrium in knowing who you are as a filmmaker isn't as... That's a hard one. That got me stumped, actually.
No, but it's true.
That's a good one. Yeah,
it's true what you're saying. Like it's almost as if, you know, the past filmmakers have almost built the skeleton for you in order to in certain genres, but that skeleton doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do this step by step. You know, it's a perfect way to explain it. Like, you know, he has Memento, which is, you can say like your typical crime drama. This guy is trying to figure out what happened from point A to point B. Yeah. But that's
instead it's B to A.
But he chooses it to do it differently. He decides that point A is where point C is, and point C is where point A is, and so on and so forth. And that's when he found his voice. He doesn't do his traditional, 3-act structure straight through across. He does it his own way, but he still follows a template, or I guess you would say like the rules of telling the story. So to a certain extent, it's like, what Paul said, that it is important to find your own style. It's important to find your own style, but at the same time, the reason that these other filmmakers are so successful is because they do follow, to a certain extent, a formula, so that they can come across. Because, if you just want to do an avant-garde piece where it barely makes any sense because there's no structure to it, then by all means go for it. It might not come out the way you want it to. You're not going to be like Terrence Malick or anything like that, but you have the freedom to do that, and as long as your voice is heard, I think that's important. And if you think that style or that way that you're showing what you want is told the way you want, then that's all that matters.
I just think it's an interesting question to pose to young filmmakers like yourselves, because like I'm sure like you're thinking about like, okay, I just want to make the best film possible, but not necessarily like, do you think about like 20 years in the future what your career is
going to be?
Like what your filmography will be, what people will say when they see your filmography and be like, wow, he started from here, he changed here, he reinvented himself there. Like, does that cross your mind at all, or you're just kind of like taking it day by day, soaking up whatever you can?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, obviously we think about like where we're going to be in the future, because the future is a scary place, because no one really knows, where we're going to be at in 20 years or even 5 years or even next year, know?
How do you produce movies without water?
You just go to the desert, I guess, and pray. But yeah, in terms of like your whole filmography and like what it says about you on your IMDb and stuff, I don't feel like people really feel like in 20 years, I want to have this progression and like I want to shift here. I feel like people direct or people write or people produce based on how they feel at the moment. It's like music is really big on this, because it's really easy to portray how you feel based on the type of music you have, or based in movies. Like there are some horror directors who direct horror because they were scared as a child. And that's why Spielberg wrote Poltergeist, back to Spielberg, because he was scared as a child, like everything scared him. But when he wrote it, he was like, oh, hey, maybe this is actually kind of therapeutic in a way. So I feel like each film is going to be completely different, and you really don't know what's going to happen in your life that dictates what you write or anything,
I have a question here from Phil, and your thoughts on it. He said, how do you differentiate yourself as a filmmaker outside of scripts and subject matter?
How do I differentiate myself?
I'm gonna just add the second part to that. So when it comes to, I've spoken to a lot of friends who are filmmakers, and they all have the subject matter, like, oh, I'm gonna make a film about this, I'm gonna make a documentary about that. But outside of those things, is there stuff in the realm of like your decision on camera angles, or the timing of scenes, or maybe all the scenes are a certain color in all my films, or I prefer a certain type of lens or something, perspective that makes you, I guess, kind of like, oh, I like this style of fashion, right? So I'm going to pick these for myself. You might just have a preference for what looks good in your eyes as what shows up on screen, or the speed at which things move. So I'm kind of wondering, what's what kinds of things on that side, the technical side, that you kind of prefer, or and Jose too, like you guys probably have very different tastes when it comes to the angles and lenses and the way things look. So
it's funny that you say that, because Devan actually me and him have collaborated a lot when it comes to him as the DP and me as a director. He was the director of the short film Peekaboo. Not the director. He was a DP for the short film Peekaboo, which was a film I directed, and it got really big on YouTube. And
5 million views, by the way.
Yeah,
go check it out.
6. We had like this similar kind of like style at first, and I could say that my style has changed over the years for sure. But we kind of had this similar way of thinking where I was like, we both enjoy like the wides. We were a big fan of the continuous take, so it also saved a lot on time, and we thought stylistically it was something that was very appealing, especially in a horror movie. When you do a single take, it almost feels like the audience or the viewer is like right there behind the main actress during this dire situation or what have you. So when it came to, for me specifically, and I'll let Devan answer for that, his side of the story, I'm a big fan of like Chinese cinema, a lot of kung fu movies. Huge fan of Kurosawa. There are a lot of Japanese films that I'm a big fan of too. Martin Scorsese, as you can see, he's right there, Raging Bull. He's a big fan of the 25 mil. So I always grew up being a big fan of like this almost spatial awareness, setting up the space around the actor or the person. So I kind of like have, for the most part, focused on these wide angle views to kind of like introduce my world to the audience. And whenever I need to show something important is when you punch in or get closer or whatever, depending on the mood that you're trying to show. So stylistically for me, I've tried my best to have that sense of openness in my frames. So I think that it looks cleaner. It looks like you're not trying to hide anything. Something that a friend of mine told me that really helped me was, it doesn't matter where you're at. The only thing that matters is what's in the frame. So right now, for all we know, Devin can be in the bathroom, but we see posters and a board in the background. It says bedroom, and that's all that matters. He's in the bedroom. So I always think of it like that, you know what I mean? And as long as my point gets across and everything, then I'm good.
Yeah, that's true. And also, I feel like it does differ between being a cinematographer and a director, because as a cinematographer, you have to figure out what the director wants, and then you have to portray their vision onto screen. But as a director, that's where you could play, because that's where it's your shot list, it's your camera angles, you get to show whatever you want to show. And similar to Jose, obviously since the greats love the wides, it's just kind of instilled, just to appreciate it. But also, the wider the frame, the more you could pack into that frame. And the more you could pack into that frame, the more you get to show about the character, about the world, about whatever you want to show, And also, Jose knows about this about me, is that I just love oneers. So I love one shots. In my previous film that I directed, it was called Let Us Pray, and we had an 8-minute oneer. So just 8 minutes, one shot. My DP Teresa, bless her heart, she was holding that camera up, handheld, by the way, handheld for 8 minutes. She was just doing her thing, just doing great. I just love being able to show the audience that this is real and this is happening in real time. There's no cuts. There's nothing trying to hide anything. It's just you and the characters for 8 minutes, just showing just for one shot, And I feel like it's just very real.
You'd say your style would be like that signature over a minute long oneer would be the Devan shot.
Probably. Which
we basically did 1 and 2.
Yeah, we did.
8-minute shot in Let Us Pray.
Yeah.
What else? You're a fan of it for sure, man. Like, we have some stories to tell, definitely, about these ones that you're a big fan of, and for the most part, they're nailed, man. It's something that takes a little bit more time and like calculating the moves and everything, but when you get it, it looks amazing. Just to clarify with Phil's question, instead of like what I like in terms of shots, my style, damn man, I'm really bad at like analyzing what I do, man. It's like in the moment, you know what I mean? Like when I do something, it's always like, this feels right. It's almost like a gut feeling. For you, it's like, yeah, I know that Devan likes the wonders. I've seen him do it all the time. He'll push for it and everything. So that's like, like you see a movie directed by Devan Ford or DP'd by him, you're definitely gonna get that wonder in there. I don't know, man. You could tell me maybe, but I don't know stylistically. Maybe I'm still looking for it. Maybe I haven't found it yet. What the Jose wonder is. I'm a big fan of different directors, and I try to dip my toes in different styles all the time to, like what you said, get an understanding of different types of filmmaking.
Yeah.
As of now, like I said, like the wide shot, but that's so broad that I can't even like explain that either. I guess I'm still finding it, Phil. So that would be my answer, is still finding that style.
Yeah.
You know.
But then you also haven't wondered. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, like, are there any filmmakers that have like a signature thing that they do that just doesn't work? That they've like committed.
Oh, that doesn't work?
They just like keep doing it, and so you know, like, oh, okay, it's his thing, like the wet bandits from Home Alone, you know, like. Doesn't make sense, but we're just gonna do it so that people know it was us.
Yeah. Shit. The Wilhelm scream, that's not really a style, but it's something that like a lot of top-notch directors do all the time. You guys gotta stop that. It takes you out of the movie. It's so dumb now, man. It's an overplayed joke and it's dumb. But in terms of a well-known director that has like a style that it just doesn't work, that's a good question, man. You got me stumped. I'll say this. There's one thing that Nolan does that I'm just like, why do you do that? Either commit or don't do it. And it's him switching from IMAX cameras to just like red cameras. Yeah. And you get the aspect ratio change. Every time I'm in the theater watching a Nolan movie, and I'm not trying to brag on the guy as if he's bad or not, but it takes me out for a split second. And the moment a movie takes me out for a split second, I think is a problem. So when I'm watching The Dark Knight or Dunkirk or something like that, and I just see like the aspect ratio change from one shot to another and back, I'm like, what's happening right now? So I think that's one thing that yeah, exactly, Phil. Like Phil said, it breaks the loop. Exactly. The whole point of a movie is to take you into this journey, this world, take you out of reality and into theirs. Yeah. And so the moment I see a technical problem, which I shouldn't be paying attention of to begin with, it's just like, either shoot the whole damn movie in IMAX or don't shoot it in IMAX. And it's an issue that he's had in his other films consistently. You know, there was movies like I was talking to a buddy of mine. I was like, you know, like the Avengers Endgame or whatever, like, you know, you can have your opinion on it, whatever, like I have my issues with the movie, but it decided to shoot the whole movie in IMAX. So it's like that was smart to do. You know, you don't break the illusion by seeing this weird aspect ratio where the bars are going in and out of frame. That's what I can think of for right now. So I guess you're not a fan of Quibi's switching horizontal landscape. I haven't used Quibi yet, actually. I haven't used Quibi yet. I wanted to see that Sam Raimi show. What's it called? Like Tour Around America, or that Dane DeHaan one? Because Quibi's the choose your own adventure thing, right? I think they have something like that, but I just meant like how you can change from portrait to landscape and it adjusts automatically. Like they required their filmmakers to all like shoot it twice. That's pretty crazy. I never heard of that actually. Oh, really? Quibi? Yeah. Quibi. Yeah, that's a new thing that I heard about too. I haven't used it. Isn't it a paid subscription? Yeah.
Subscription based. Yeah.
They also have a thing where you can watch the same content from a different character's perspective.
That sounds awesome. That's really cool. The Quibi thing doesn't bother me so much, and the reason I was mentioning the Nolan thing is because I think that at a theater, the theater experience is one of the most sacred things, especially for a filmmaker to have. And so, like, the theater experience is different than seeing a movie on your phone, you know? Like, on your phone, you're going to be doing something. The reason you're watching it is because you're not at the movie theater, you're watching it on your phone. So I think that's convenient that they change the aspect ratio accordingly if you're horizontal or whatever, or vertical. I think that's what you were talking about, Paul. I think that's really cool. But it's mainly for like that theater going experience. Like, you know, I'm pretty sure you can agree with me, Devan. Like, you know, when you're in the theater, it's just like, I want to be in this world, man. Like, I
exactly. You just want to be stuck in there for the next 2 hours
doing that. And the last thing I should be thinking about is, why are these black bars moving up and down so much?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest things I had against Dunkirk was not only. Well, that's why it's interesting, because with Dunkirk, he had his signature style, obviously, to where he manipulates time and he does all this stuff. And yeah, like when he was in the submarine, like the whole things go back and forth. But the biggest thing about that was it comes back to the story. Like I didn't know who to follow. Like there were so many different people. Like obviously you know what it's made after, but just when you're watching, it's like, what is he doing?
Yeah,
I have no idea what this is going on.
Yeah,
like, that's probably my least favorite movie about Christopher Nolan.
Just destroying Nolan right now. I love him. Nolan's a great filmmaker. All right.
Oh yeah.
I feel like we're gonna get like a bad reception from just from talking bad about him. He's a master at what he does.
Yeah.
But you know, you can be critical on a good director. You know?
Yeah, and that's why I'm interested to see Tenet, because
man, I can't wait for that.
I actually want to see what he did differently, because this is, well, for one, it's supposed to come out in May of this year.
Yeah.
They got pushed back. No, April of this year, and it just got pushed back so many different times.
It's already
Paul Jordan with shots too.
It's already released in Europe, apparently.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still, while you guys are talking, I'm trying to think of another director so we can stop bragging on Nolan, because I feel bad.
This would actually be a good segment, though, to like, you know, it's so easy to praise directors. I guess it's also easy to criticize directors, but like the really top tier ones that everybody almost universally loves, and then just like breaking them down of like things they suck at. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, that is true though. I mean, I just find it hard to kind of. Well, sometimes directors make it easy to criticize them, but other times when you watch a movie, you watch it
for the movie.
Yeah, for the movie, you know, and they do the same exact thing that we do. So when you expect other people to watch your story, you kind of expect them to be, you know, critical about it and for them to tell you exactly what's going on. So even though we're sort of bashing Nolan a little bit, you know, like, I mean, that's what filmmaking's all about. You know, like it's about letting people know what you like and what you don't like, and it's all learning experience. You know, it's like everyone's made a bad movie before. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, all my movies are great. Like, I made some trash movies back in my day. So like, it's just all learning experience, and
and the reason that they're allowed to make a movie for the most part is because they're good at their job too. So maybe their style is
exactly
to watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
that, and they just
maybe. Yeah, man, that's a good one. You're gonna have me stumped for a while right there, Paul. I'm gonna think of somebody that's like hot, like up there, and be like, we
can talk about Army of Darkness.
I think, dang,
The Evil Dead.
No, man, that's perfect.
But the first or second one?
Both.
Both are perfect.
Yeah, I can't think of anything for right now. But but just so we're not a whole bunch of thinking faces for 15 minutes straight. For you, Devan, what you mentioned Let Us Pray. Do you want to talk about that? I know that you submitted to Filmocracy Fest, or I don't know if you have yet, but you're...
Oh, I did.
Oh, perfect.
It was great.
With Let Us Pray. Cool, man. Yeah. And that was your last film that you directed, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, and like how you see yourself as a filmmaker now after you did Let Us Pray compared to when you did your first film, like what you kind of discovered about yourself.
Yeah, so Let Us Pray was my thesis film. And the biggest thing I liked about Let Us Pray was because even though it was my final film, the film that I was going to use to launch my career, is what these films are for, I really wanted to try something new. So that was actually my first drama that I ever directed. Usually I like to direct psychological thrillers because I love the hidden aspect of them and what's actually hidden underneath the layer that is actually portrayed to the audience. So Let Us Pray is about a boy who basically has done something really bad in his town. He lives in Napa Valley.
Yeah, make sure to not spoil too much because, yeah.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, so basically it has to do with a young boy. He's a pastor's son and a detective. And they basically all have their conversation within this one house. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to test my writing ability with a new genre inside of this house that we shot in Santa Clarita. That's supposed to be Napa Valley. And I basically wanted to see if I could just get a compelling story within the 20 minutes of the movie inside one location. Okay. And when doing this, I actually got a lot of inspiration from Alfred Hitchcock's Rope, because all that takes place in one, and 12 Angry Men by Sidney Lumet. Those are just two great filmmakers. And yeah, I feel like it really did help me out as a filmmaker, just because I'm the type of person who likes to try everything before coming to a conclusion. I like to do research of everything, which is why I've directed many different genres during my time in film school. And yeah, you said, shall we watch the trailer?
Yeah.
Do we have the trailer?
I was looking for it right now.
Okay.
By your name, your kingdom come. Give us each day our daily bread. And forgive us our sins. For we also forgive everyone who sins against us. And lead us not into temptation.
So,
okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit. Paul, this is mainly going to be on you a little bit on questions, just because I was on set for this film, so I'm a little biased towards it. But yeah, we can talk about it. Just don't give a little too much, especially just because you submitted to Filmocracy Fest. We wouldn't want to spoil it for anybody.
Of course.
And just talk about the process of what you did and all that good stuff. So let's have it up, and we'll just let it run while we talk about it. But Paul, if you have any questions, feel free to ask whenever.
Cool. Yeah, so yeah, just a little bit of an intro about the trailer. I kind of made this before I was actually done editing. So the trailer was actually finished before I probably finished about half the film, just because I wanted to put out a little teaser, for anyone actually got to watch the film. Basically where it starts out is it starts off with so basically when it starts off, it has our main character Kyle, and he's opening a safe. And the reason I wanted to start with the safe and end with the safe was because I wanted to feel like an open book, but I didn't want to do the cliche like open the book, he closed the book, it's over, like a Disney movie. No offense to Disney, I love Disney. But I just wanted to show that it's an actual movie and has a beginning, middle, and end, and it's complete. As for the lighting and all that other stuff, I had a lot of meetings with my DP, Teresa, and I just love that style. I love the contrast ratio between the light and dark.
So because it really natural lighting, right? For the most part?
Yeah, it was. It was, we actually just used mirrors.
Yeah, so
the whole film was lit by mirrors, exactly. Like these giant 4-foot by 4-foot mirrors.
Yeah.
And we literally just found the sun, and we moved it, put on the actors. We made a bounce board on one side to get some nice fill on the other side, but for the most part, it was all lit by lighting, or by sunlight.
So for everybody, I was in the G&E crew also, in like the main what do you call it? The main key grip, and the oh my god, I'm already forgetting the gaffer. There you go, Jay Swim is awesome. Sorry if I forgot, my man. They use these ginormous like mirrors that like Devan mentioned, and essentially we were just shooting it like Indiana Jones or something. We were shooting light beams. We were shooting light beams from one mirror to another, and then hit so it could hit the subject's face. because if you just got the mirror and then shot at their face, sometimes it would be too intense and it would overblow the image. So in order to cut the light a little bit, we would do some like Montezuma open up the temple door thing in order to cut light a little bit, and that was I never done something like that, to be honest. It was pretty crazy to see that. Teresa did a phenomenal job. She's such a good DP. But that was probably one of the coolest things ever, because what did you use, like no lights? And if you did, it was like very little, right?
Yeah, there was literally no lights. If we did, we'd probably use like a little Kino Flow, which is a very soft source, just for fill. But other than that, yeah, it was just all sunlight and mirrors. It was actually pretty crazy. And to answer your question, Philip, the most interesting situation, I can't talk too much about it because I don't want to spoil anything, but there was a shot that we had to shoot in golden hour. And in order to get this golden hour shot, we had to get 5 pages of script shot before we actually got to that golden hour part. We shot 12-hour days, very typical. And we basically just had to rush. Thank you to Jose and the rest of the G&E department because you guys made it happen.
You were trying to get that golden hour shot.
It was insane. Like we had
running, man.
Yeah, so basically we had to put a crane with a camera attached on top of a dolly, which basically tracked our character. And yeah, it was just the most insane setup I've ever seen. But they made it happen. Yeah, it was not the safest thing that we've ever done, but
hey, at least the house was super cool. It's like a mini.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, for me, from what I saw, because I knew that you were kind of laser focused on your movie. From what I saw, that was very interesting. One, for sure, the lights, because I never did a lighting thing like that before. Another thing would be, it's crazy to know that you shot the movie. I'm trying to think of how to say it without giving away too much, but basically you shot the film in 2 separate houses, but made it seem like it was one. I think that was really cool to do because it's flawless in the film. You don't notice it at all.
Oh, cool.
So the fact that you did that was really cool. And then another one would probably be, I keep thinking about that light scene, man. The light scene was really good.
I know, right? Yes.
I never seen something like that before, honestly.
Yeah.
And it gives it this like really, really good like moody look to the film.
Mm-hmm.
For that film specifically, what were some inspirations about it? I can see a little bit of film noir, a little taste of that. Like you said, it was a drama. So what specific films did you gather up that helped build Let Us Pray for what it is now?
Yeah, so one of the biggest ones I was talking to Teresa about was Double Indemnity, and that's probably one of my favorite film noirs of all time.
That's Hitchcock?
No, not Hitchcock.
It's not Hitchcock.
What's his name? Oh, Billy Wilder.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's Billy Wilder. He's a great director. But I really like the film noir look just because when it comes to film noir, you also deal with identity. And that's also one thing that I want to talk about this film is that when I was writing it, since I feel like this is the first film to where it's actually my style and I finally found my style as a director, is just talking about identity and finding yourself. So in this movie, you find the main character, Kyle. He is very in denial about what happened at first. And then he finally finds his identity towards the end. Now, what actually happens to him, it's unknown until you watch the movie. But there's always going to be a consequence. There's always going to be something good. So good and bad about when you finally find yourself. There's always going to be people that need to be left behind or people that you finally meet and you move on forward with. So there's always going to be some kind of change when this happens. And that's kind of what I wanted to focus on this movie. It also has to do with the biblical modernization.
Oh, really? Okay.
It does. So, but yeah, I just really tried to focus on everything that I learned through film school and try to apply into a thesis, which is what a thesis should be. But I just really feel like this is the first film that I'm proud of because it's the first film where I implicated myself into it in order to make a project that we could all be proud of, because everyone did their hardest work. Like, I don't take any credit for this movie. I always thank the crew and the actors, because without the amazing actors, the movie wouldn't be as good as it is, or bad as it is, depending on how you think it is when you watch it.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the crew. Like, we had 3 12-hour days. We try to get 14 pages of script, so it was like 4.5, 5 pages a day, which is actually a lot. And yeah, just
how involved was your producer? It was Angela, right?
Oh yeah, Angela. Yeah, she was actually really good within it. We actually met a couple projects back. I consider her to be my producing partner. I call her for any project that I may do. And we've just done so much together. She was always there for the script. Like, I would send it to her through rewrites and be like, hey, what do you think about this? You know, she'd be like, I love it, but you need to get out the DP mind because you're thinking too expensively right now. So they're trying to stay within, stay within
a little bit.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what I appreciate about her. She's just not afraid to tell me what's up, because I'm not a soft person. Like, you tell me what's up and I'll fix it. Like, I'm not gonna have an ego about it. I
appreciate that about you. You'll say how it is. And that's awesome. And one more thing that I love about Let Us Pray, since we're not going to try to give away too much, can we see the poster or the painting? And shout out to our buddy Swaby, who
do I even have a poster?
Who painted that? That was hand painted by a fellow artist friend of ours and filmmaker who hopefully we'll have on the show eventually. He did the poster. I think it's phenomenal. I have a signed version myself. Whenever you get super famous, it's going to cost a lot of money to sell.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, but the poster super strong, and it was all hand painted, which is awesome.
All right, so courtesy to Vivian, this is the painting.
And that's a crucial. There's a little note. It's a crucial part of the story, and that's all you're gonna get.
Literally hand painted, and Sean Swaby's awesome. He finished it in like three days. So literally went to Michael's. I bought him the stuff. He came back to my place and just painted. This is all before Corona, so don't worry about us being. But yeah. And Philip, what kinds of projects? So it's actually very interesting that you asked that. So right now, me and my mom, we're actually writing a television series right now. I kind of shifted into television a little bit, just with writing and everything. Yes, I'm still writing movies, but also television. We just started writing it just because writing's pretty much all you can do to keep yourself sane right now, because you can't really go out and shoot. And I feel like the story we're writing, it's very powerful to do with the women's movement and minorities. It's actually set in Mexico, just really big issues. And I really feel like in order to write scripts like these, you really need to be current on what's going on, because television is all about releasing films releasing shows at the exact right time due to the networks. So I'd feel like, definitely make sure you write. That's a huge part of any filmmaking job or anything. You have to make sure you know how to write, know how to tell a story. Those are the biggest things.
Awesome, man. And since we're basically heading towards the end of this podcast for today, plugs, man. You got any plugs? Plug us your social media, where people can follow you, some projects you've got coming up, some stuff people should look forward to. Filmocracy Fest.
Yeah.
Anything good, man? Where people can find you, basically.
Yeah. Instagram. Follow me at Devan Ford _. I also have a website that I'm still working on right now. DevanFord.com. I'm actually finishing up my director's reel. Let Us Pray will not be on there just because I don't want to spoil too much. I'm actually kind of sad.
But don't worry, if you need me to cut anything out that might be spoilery in the podcast, just let me know and we won't add it.
No. That's fine. But just Devan Ford everything. Let me know. It's kind of funny talking about myself. I don't like talking about myself. But thank you for having me, guys. It was fun last time I was on. It was great to be a part of it.
Yeah, make sure to let people know, man. We would love to have other people. I'm looking forward to breaking down Let Us Pray once it's out to the public and we can have you in person. But it's been really fun, man. I'm really glad that you got a chance to talk with me and Paul and Phil and all that.
Yeah.
So it's been good. So I'm going to pass you over to Paul to close us off.
All right. And I think that'll do it for this edition of Filmocracy Talks. I hope you all had as much fun and learned as much as I did. Remember to join us every 2 weeks as we discuss topics that you all care about the most. And by all means, if anyone has a particular topic you want to discuss, like why Chris Nolan sucks, you can...
He doesn't, though. He doesn't, guys.
His email.
Don't think that we're saying he does.
If you want to talk about why Chris Nolan sucks, Jose's email is jose@filmocracy.com, and I will leave that on the side chat. Good night, everyone.
See you later, guys.
Bye.